Looks like it. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back from the weekend. It is Monday, November 28th. We're talking a little showdown action here. It's the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show presented by Prize Picks. Dave Loughran at Loughran_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. Happy to have all of you guys with us as always. Hopefully you had a great Sunday night, afternoon slate. Hopefully all the pieces fell into place. But if they didn't, or if they did, that's okay. One way or another, we're talking Monday Night Football, barn burner style. Nothing like yesterday with the Packers and the Eagles having like 45 total points at halftime, whatever the hell it was. Joining me, Matt Gajewski at Matt_Gajewski. As always, good to see you, man. What's happening?
Good to see you too. Hope you had a great holiday. We have another barn burner on a single game slate here, but 39.5 total, maybe not the most exciting for DFS, but there's a couple moving parts here I think that are interesting to talk about. So yeah, I'm doing well, excited to break down the game. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. I just wanted to see what Thursday's game is. Just curious here. Like what does this coming Thursday's game look like?
I don't even know who it is. Oh, it's actually a good one. Well,
Bills Patriots?
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's fun. That should be fun. Yeah. How about the Lions, man? They didn't get the win because 2 plays with 20 seconds left. Allen drives down and they kick a field goal. But that Lions team ain't fucking around right now. They look pretty good. I don't know what it is.
Wait till next week's main slate. Lions, Jaguars, 52 total, highest on the main slate.
Wow.
That's going to be a fun
total between Lions and Jags.
Highest team. It's higher than the Bengals Chiefs total right now. And we're recording this on Monday. Obviously things can change, but right now, Lions, Jags, 52, Chiefs, Bengals, 51.5. It's going to be awesome. And I mean, it's also higher than the Chargers and the Raiders, which is at 50.5.
Amazing.
We're going to chalk Jaguars,
wow,
Detroit Lions game. I'm here for it.
Wait, where's the game?
It's in Detroit.
Okay, so I thought so because you would think in a dome it'd be a higher total. It just feels like Detroit's played so many home games already this year. That's why I was taken aback a little bit there. Okay. So Detroit has to be like, all right. Is Detroit maybe like a 2-point favorite in this? Are they favored?
1 point favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured it was close. Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun game.
If you asked me right now, what am I doing? I'm probably laying the points on Detroit. Although Trevor Lawrence looked pretty damn good. How about that game winning? Guys, throw your input in chat. We love to hear from you early on. We always do a little recap from the week behind us before we kick this show off, only on Mondays. How about that drive by Jack? Let me ask you a question. Are there 3 other teams? Are there? I was thinking the other day about the 3 teams in this league that have found ways to consistently and almost intentionally shoot themselves in the foot in winnable games, right? You have Denver. It's just atrocious. The defense, I honestly feel for them, and they were chewing Russ out on the sidelines. Made me happy. You got them. You got the Vegas Raiders, who got that overtime win. Maybe they got off the schneid here. 2 late game win, two overtime wins in a row, I think, for them. But they found ways to lose all season long. The Baltimore Ravens have to be up there, right? They have to be up there.
Yeah, they are for sure. They've lost a lot of close games that they had leads late into games. So I think they're firmly in this conversation. That was a heartbreaking loss, especially against the Jags, who are down ETN, one of your best offensive players, probably your best offensive player. You just can't let it happen. It's insane.
It really is. Trevor Lawrence, though, that was a great drive. That was a really great drive. Shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have come down to that, but certainly a great drive. MJ Heiting said Josh Jacobs over 300 yards of offense on his lonesome. Yeah, dude, and an 85-yard run in overtime to close that one out. The 1 p.m. games were kind of quiet for the most part. We had some fun finishes, but those 4 p.m. games opened things up. And yes, did you see Alex Awesome himself? There was like 2 minutes left in all of the games, and he was first place solo in the Millie and ended up coming in third.
I did see that. It was a heartbreaking loss for him. As he put it, it's his white whale, so I hope he gets it soon. I was glad he was up there, though, and hopefully can parlay those into a first place finish. I know he's been chasing that for a while, but awesome finish by him, man. I think anytime you can just put yourself in position to almost win the Millie, it needs to be celebrated. So props to Alex.
No question. Last thing here, Eagles, 366 rushing yards. What?
That was insane. They were running all over the field. Some of those, like, I don't know what the Packers are doing, just like playing man coverage, especially early in the game. Did they not have any sort of spy on Jalen Hurts? It's like some of the coverage was pretty good, but then all the Eagles receivers are downfield, no contain whatsoever. Jalen Hurts just basically walks his way to 100 yards in the first quarter.
It was crazy. And Sanders, my man, Sanders, he looked nice. Sanders looked
Love
good.
Sanders.
He's a good player, man. He put some weight on. He's shedding tackles. Definitely nice to see all of that. But that was a fun game. That was a really fun game. And, well, we got a lot to talk about today. Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts. Listen, it doesn't matter what the total is in this game. Matt put it, you put it well. There's some moving parts. There's some really interesting wrinkles in this game that we'll get to. They may not seem significant, but I promise you they are. So don't you go anywhere. We're about to break it down, all of it right now. But before we do, hit that thumbs up. I know we know our people. It's week 12. All of our people are here. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment down below if you're listening after the fact. We always try and read and respond to those. Not just that, if you're listening in podcast form, I know a lot of you guys do. Leave a rating, review, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, all that stuff. helps us greatly. Ready to jump into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's talk about the Steelers first. 2.5-point dogs, 18.5-point total. And of course, tonight, live before lock, these guys will go position by position. I actually want to start in the backfield, and then we can get into what this team looks like in the passing game. It's been 2 games now without Chase Claypool since he got shipped over to Chicago. But the one I think really interesting wrinkle, and I'm assuming this was something that you were referencing as well, Jaylen Warren is out for this game. He missed last week, and Najee Harris, who was playing 70 or so % of snaps each week, it looked like Warren was beginning to get a little bit more work, kind of, jamming his way into that backfield more and more. Najee Harris played a season high by far, 92% of snaps. And while he wasn't efficient, clearly had his best game of the season, shitload of work in that one.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you're just going to play 95% of snaps, touch the ball 20 times, doesn't matter how efficient you are. It's kind of like the James Conner rule. As long as you're on the field for that much, you're going to be productive in games. And it's basically the same setup here. Behind him, there's just not the same caliber player as Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren actually has a 3-down skill set, even though he wasn't drafted highly. Behind him, we're talking about guys like Benny Snell, who is just a pure 2-down grinder and just flat out cannot be on the field in any 3rd-down situations. And he only played 3 snaps, so it tells you what they think about Benny Snell. He is not a player that is really going to carve out any sort of role himself and cannibalize Najee Harris. And I don't think there's any back on the roster that's going to do so. So it looks like it's just going to be the Najee Harris show moving forward. And we've got a tight projected spread here. It is a low total, but that makes touchdowns even more impactful. Even as a 2.5-point underdog, depending on where you look, Najee Harris, I mean, he sets up for maybe the best workload on the slate. It might be better than Jonathan Taylor's, honestly.
You know what? Right. Forget about efficiency, but just, you're right. When we're talking about workload, it's actually pretty difficult to see anybody getting a bigger workload than he does today with Jaylen Warren out. It is significant in every way. I don't see any way to get away from this. By the way, whatever happened to Anthony McFarland? I know Ben was big on him coming into the league. Ben had some high hopes for that young fella.
Is he on the active roster right now? I'm sure they had to promote somebody. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he hasn't. I mean, he's probably on the practice squad, right?
I would guess so. I'm pulling up right now, but I mean, he was an explosive player, came out of Maryland. Never really put it together. They carry a fullback, which is like why I'm not sure he's on the roster.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't think he is.
He's not on the roster right now, the active roster at least.
Totally unimportant. I was just wondering what happened to him, but
he's not on the practice squad either. It looks like.
It's funny because DraftKings still.
Oh, he still is. He is. Okay. He's on the practice.
DraftKings hasn't been the player pool. Just looking at prices, though, I mean, I think you and I both agree that Najee Harris is never a particularly exciting play because he has really struggled to break off, big plays this season. His pass catching usage has kind of been erratic. I don't think he needs to be exciting at this price. He's $2,000 cheaper than Jonathan Taylor too. Jonathan Taylor's a better back. There's no doubt about that. But I'm also not sure the Colts should be 2.5-point favorites here. Like, this is as evenly matched as it gets. As far as if neutral field, neutral field, I'm favoring the Steelers in this game. So I'm not worried about Pittsburgh's offense. I don't think this is a game, and look, anything can happen. We know that, but it certainly, and the spread would indicate the same, doesn't feel like a game where it gets away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their defense is getting healthier. The $9,400 price point on Najee Harris just seems really, really good in a spot like this.
Yeah, I love Najee today. And there's kind of some stink on his name after he was really highly drafted in a lot of seasonal leagues, and he's been terrible this year, but his price is right. He's not priced as a player who's going to play 95% of snaps, and he is going to do that barring injury. So, I mean, he pops in our tools. If you run optimals, you're going to get a fair amount of him in captain, especially on DraftKings. And I'm okay with that. He has a good pass catching role. He had 6 targets last week. I think part of the reason his targets haven't been there this year is just the emergence of Jaylen Warren. But going back to last year, his rookie year, awesome pass catching role. So we know he can do it. And if he's on the field for 95% of the snaps, he's just going to see some targets flat out, no matter what. I'll play him in the captain as a volume-based play. And everything you said about the game itself with Indianapolis, not sure they should be favored here in this spot or against anyone really. I agree with all that wholeheartedly.
For sure, man. And you're right about Warren. Even taking away like 3 targets a game is significant, especially since they got rid of Chase Claypool. If you go ahead and you look at the target shares, so the target shares since week 5. So when Kenny Pickett took over as the starter, Deontay Johnson 22, Freiermuth 19, Pickens 15. You actually had you had Chase Claypool around 19 as well. Najee Harris 11. In the 2 weeks since we lost, or since they lost Chase Claypool, Freiermuth has a 30% target share. We'll talk about that. He's getting a boatload of targets. Deontay Johnson 16, Pickens 16, Najee Harris 11. I didn't even really bother to reference guys like Sims or Gunnar Olszewski, and what we have to talk about them. But they're getting, they're very, very scarcely involved. So maybe Claypool's absence and Jaylen Warren's absence does open up more opportunities in the passing game for Najee Harris. But we can talk about the wide receivers here too. I just kind of broke it down a little bit, Matt, and we can get into, routes and snaps and all of that. But there's no doubt that Pat Freiermuth over the last 2 weeks, and even, on the season in general, but over the last 2 weeks, last month too, really, really benefited from Kenny Pickett being his quarterback. And more so than that, because he was getting targeted anyway. 19 targets over the last 2 weeks since Chase Claypool departed.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. This offensive line is not great. So you're still looking for players that operate underneath the field. And Deontay Johnson does that, but most of the teams know that at this point. So Pat Freiermuth is another big body target who plays almost every single snap for this team. So just heavily involved. There will be some ebbs and flows. And I think the concerns aren't really with him and his role. It's just like, he's not a dynamic tight end. He's not Kelsey. He's not Kyle Pitts. He's not going to rip off a lot of big plays, but he does have a very consistent target share. And he's just flat out underpriced here in this game. You're going to get him in captains too. It's funny. We're leading off the show with 2 of the most prevalent captains when you run optimals. It's Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth. And I think it's for good reason. And honestly, looking on the tools on the back end, I think they're both under-owned just because these aren't the studs in the game. And these guys aren't Jonathan Taylor. They're not Deontay Johnson. There's a chance they go pretty under-owned in the captain spot even. So I like Pat Freiermuth everywhere. I like Najee Harris everywhere. I think you could play him captain or utility.
Yeah, absolutely with you. And one of the reasons too is, I think you were kind of alluding to this, but should Pat Freiermuth really be $1,200 cheaper than Deontay Johnson? Should he really be $1,000 cheaper than George Pickens? You're right. As far as the deep passes go, it's not going to be a lot of Freiermuth. Since Kenny Pickett took over, 19 of his deep attempts have gone to Deontay Johnson and Pickett with 10 and 9 respectively. But PPR format, Freiermuth benefits significantly. Also, if you're just talking about red zone opportunities, that Freiermuth is one of these guys that you're going to try to get the ball to in the end zone. We saw that last year. Forget about whether it's Ben Roethlisberger or whoever it is. You're going to see Pat Freiermuth get a lot of opportunities to score touchdowns. He's a big-bodied tight end, and that is, to me, something that definitely stands out. And even, I mean, look, on a main slate, you and I aren't talking about this all that much because there's plenty of other teams that have higher, overall touchdown equity that are going to get into the red zone more often. But we're talking about the Colts and the Steelers here. If as far as touchdown scorers go, I doubt there are many players with better odds to score a touchdown today than Pat Freiermuth.
I agree with you. He has a great red zone role, and his role's not all that different than Deontay Johnson's. You look at their average depth of target. Deontay Johnson's at 10, Pat Freiermuth's at 8.6. Before the departure, Chase Claypool was at 9.6. So to your point, Freiermuth is sort of filling the Chase Claypool role in the offense. And the only person who's targeted downfield with any sort of frequency on their target share is George Pickens. So his role's a bit different, but I don't see him being too dissimilar from Deontay Johnson or the prior Chase Claypool role in the offense. They're just not pushing the ball downfield with great frequency. So I don't even know if looking at, all right, Pickens has the downfield role. Is that very impactful in a game like this? Because it's not a team that throws the ball downfield a ton.
Absolutely. touchdown props to the anytime touchdown scorer. Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris up top, obviously. Then Pittman, then Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth have the same odds. So I like it. How would you rank? Because I think you would agree. We all like Pickens, Freiermuth, and Deontay Johnson, at least in my opinion, are all very much viable today. There's just no question about that. It has become, while it's not like a Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle target share, it has become pretty concentrated over the last 2 weeks where you have a good idea who almost on every attempt, which one of the three guys it's going to be going to.
Absolutely. And I think from a rankings perspective, I'll bring price into the consideration here. I think it's still Johnson just because he's the target leader in the offense. And he's honestly not that expensive either.
Agreed.
So I think it's still him. But if you absolutely can't find the salary to get him, or you're just prioritizing other guys, I think it is very close between him and Freiermuth. I would rank Freiermuth second. It's close. And then I would rank George Pickens third, just a little more volatile in terms of targets, but you kind of make that up with big playability. So I still like Pickens too. I think all three of these guys are pretty close, but the ranking would be Johnson 1, Freiermuth 2, Pickens 3, price adjusted.
And then we'll get into some cheap options here. Hey, heads up to you guys, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Last day of our thanks promo, one where, you know, we want to do something nice for all of you guys who have supported us, who join this show every Monday morning with Matt and myself, and every Thursday, and you're here no matter what. You know, it doesn't matter when or what time of season. We're doing the entire week of Stokastic plus Platinum. I shouldn't have to list off all the tools because you guys know, but every single sport, every single tool. We don't own Fantasy Cruncher. We just host it on the site. It's not Fantasy Cruncher, but we have the new lineup generator, which is awesome as a sweet alternative. You can export the CSV. You can do tournament lineups, contrarian, cash lineups, balance lineups. You could do Showdown, main slate, whatever it is, entire week, $5. That's 90% off the normal $40 a week. Today is the last day. You're talking all of our tools, all of our data for NFL, all of college football, college basketball. You're getting all the match projections, and for that, you're getting all of the projections and tools for the World Cup, which is happening right now, for MMA, for PGA, for NBA, for NHL, you name it. If they have contests out there, we got all the content you need, all the tools you need. $5, last day. Take advantage of it. And hey, guess what? If you do it today, because it is the last day, you're getting Monday Night Football, because we have all of our Showdown tools. Like Matt and I reference them all the time. Top plays tool with the optimal percentages, leverage scores, ownership, projections, all that great. You're getting that. You get Thursday Night Football. You're getting the main slate on Sunday. Then you're getting Monday Night Football again, and all of the other sports included along the way. So we'd love to have you guys hang out. Join our premium Discord while you're there. Check out the community. If you don't like it, again, you can bounce, no strings attached, of course. But if you do, and you want to hang out and you think these tools can help you win, we'd love to keep you around and join the Stokastic family here. So $5 for the entirety of the week, well under $1 a day. Last day to get in on it. The link is in the description, or the one that Mike just threw in the chat. Mike, throw it in chat one more time. So check it out. We'll love to see you over there. All right, Matt, Sims, Olszewski. I guess we have to talk about somebody. I guess we have to talk about Zach Gentry and stuff like that. This, my friend, is your wheelhouse. So dig in.
They rotate the wide receiver 3 position between Sims and Olszewski. Now that we do not have Chase Claypool in the offense, very, very little separates them in terms of their opportunity. We're looking at, essentially 1, 2, 3 targets a game. Sims had a rush attempt in their most recent games. It's very sporadic. And honestly, my approach is probably just going to be using ownership to determine this, and then play the guy who's lower owned. But I think this is a good situation just because you probably don't have it condensed on one guy here. And Olszewski right now projects to be a little more owned than Sims. I think that's just because he had more targets in the last game. I don't feel good about that at all. But you could be pretty confident playing one of these guys at $200 because a lot of times we play $200 guys and we're not even sure they're going to get snaps. we're confident these guys are going to get snaps, and they've both been in the 30s at times this year, like playing 50% of the snaps or close to it. So you're probably looking at 2-3 targets as your floor. I'm going to throw some darts here. I like that it's kind of spread out, but I don't have a preference between the two of them. Honestly, like talent-wise, I think Sims might be a little better. Olszewski's like a special teamer from New England. He's like a gunner or their kick returner. Hasn't played a ton of real-life offense, where Sims has been a starter at previous points in his career. But I don't feel good about either of these guys, and I wouldn't be hitching my wagon to them or trying to like lock and load one of them, if that makes sense.
No, you know what though? I think there's a silver lining here. And the silver lining is, a lot of times you and I have done how many of these together now? A lot, right? These shows. It's not often though that it's going to sound stupid, but it's true. It's not often that you have two guys at minimum salary that are averaging 2 targets over their last 2 weeks. Like that, as crazy as that sounds, it's true. You know, Olszewski had 3 targets last week. Sims had 2 targets in back-to-back games since Chase Claypool left. You're right. And like, there's no real clear differentiator here, but I don't think either of them, it's not that either of them can't be considered, because a lot of times we have slates, Matt, where you have the minimum salary guys, the Stoneman, where they're probably not even seeing the field. Like there isn't a guy down there that even sees the field. These guys are at least running, 12, 15 routes per game since Chase Claypool left. So it's not like you can't, if you wanted to load up on expensive players elsewhere, it's not like there's nothing down here that's going to even be on the field tonight.
No, these guys are good. Like these guys are going to be in optimals. Not good as in real life, but they're good projection.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're good projection plays. Like you should be considering these guys. And I think the best thing we can say is having 2 of them reduces duplication. Like sometimes when we get like, I don't know, a Trey McBride or something from a previous slate at the Stone Min, it brings everybody around to the same roster construction and the same minimum price guy. Well, now maybe a lot of people are on a similar roster construction, but at least you can guarantee it's not one guy locked and loaded into that spot. So it gives you a lot more opportunities to differentiate yourself. And again, I think Olszewski is going to come in slightly more owned than Sims, but basically just guessing here. I don't know who has the better game. Both practice squad level players that are going to be seeing 50% of the snaps, 2-3 targets here, but both pretty good plays, honestly. They allow you to get all the studs.
No question. All right. Anybody else?
Gentry, you mentioned his name. He's not going to play as much as these guys, at least in the past game. He plays a fair amount, but they use him a ton as a blocker. He's also more expensive than Olszewski and Sims. So he's going to be virtually unowned if you're playing like the Millie Maker. We have seen Pittsburgh use multiple tight ends, get one of these random guys into the end zone at times in the past. So Millie Maker style play. Other guys that play a little bit here got Miles Boykin, Connor Hayward, and they use the fullback. So if you get any crazy Derek Watt stuff, those are Millie Maker names to monitor, probably like Neil Orfield style plays that I won't be getting to.
Okay. What about Kenny Pickett?
Kenny Pickett looks pretty good, man, especially on the back end from our tools. I do believe he is a talent upgrade on Mitch Trubisky. The offense has looked a little better. He delivers it to his playmakers, has a little bit of mobility, nothing crazy, but he's not a zero in the run game. And this team is projected to play with slight negative game scripts. I think Kenny Pickett is completely fine play.
So do I. And obviously when you and I are saying that, we think all of the receivers are in play, clearly we think Pickett is perfectly fine. I just wanted to see what his price is. So he's your standard, not great quarterback price for a showdown slate. That's what we're getting from Kenny Pickett here. I don't expect a massive performance, but like you said, he does have the weapons. He is throwing a ton as well. Now, they would prefer not to have to throw that much, and I think that we should temper our expectations for a game like this. Philly, 38 attempts, they were getting steamrolled. Miami, that game actually stayed close, but 44 attempts, 42 against Cincinnati. They were playing from behind, 52 against Buffalo. So I think it's more than reasonable to expect less than usual, but it's not like they're trying to hide him in the sense of a Marcus Mariota, where if he throws less than 12 attempts, they're happy. No, I like Kenny Pickett here. The one thing I want to know from you, though, before we move on to the Colts, though, is, and this is an important one, how much Kenny Pickett at captain are you comfortable with? There's a difference between us liking a guy and then being like, hey, I really like him as the captain today.
I'm glad you brought this up. I didn't want to just gloss over this either, and I kind of did. But I think
that's why I'm here, Matt. Steer the ship, you know?
You're a great host. Thank you, Lofty.
Thanks, man.
So for the captain spot, this is a place I think I might come a little underowned, and it's honestly nothing against Pickett. It's just a lot of these pass catchers and skill position players are coming in with positive leverage in the captain. So it appears Pickett could be a little overowned here, but you have like Freiermuth positively leveraged in the captain spot. We already talked about Harris. He's a little more positively leveraged in the flex, but I think you could still play some Captain Harris. And the same thing goes for some of these other pass catchers that we already mentioned. So Pickett to me looks like a pretty good flex play. I'm going to play multiple lineups tonight, so I'll certainly have some Pickett captain, but I think I might come a little under the field on him there and try to get to a pass catcher. And this kind of makes sense. I mean, receiving touchdowns, rushing touchdowns are worth more than passing touchdowns, and we're not projected to see a lot of touchdowns tonight with a 39.5 total. So there's a chance just the scoring format could leave Pickett as a better flex play.
Yes, sir. All right. Good stuff. I like him as a flex more as well. The ceiling game seems it seems more likely that you get the better, because he's a lot more expensive than all of his pass catchers. It feels like more likely that you're getting a better optimal captain game from one of Freiermuth, Pickens, Deontay Johnson than you would from Kenny Pickett paying an extra $2,000.
I agree with that.
All right, let's go to the Indian. Kicker here. Well, in honor of our friend AB, who cannot be with us today, Matthew Wright. I mean, I think any kicker's fine in this game. It has to be.
I agree with you. I think I prefer Chase McLaughlin a little bit better, just from a talent standpoint. And the team has a higher implied team total, and the price difference is minimal. It's only 200 between them. But yeah, for AB, low scoring game environment, going to play my kickers. And I think they're going to be contrarian today. Part of the discussion with kickers this year is you get them a lot when we don't have really good value. Tonight we have Olszewski and Sims. So chance kickers just come in lower owned because of that.
Yeah, that's possible. Like you're saying, maybe the total, the low scoring projection doesn't influence kickers being used as much as just a slate where you have the Chargers and the Chiefs, and you've got a million different guys that you're trying to get into your lineup. Makes sense.
Yeah. I think at this point, honestly, do we have a min price guy we can use? If we do, we don't use as many kickers. This is the public I'm speaking for. Just because like you play Olszewski, well, suddenly your lineup has Olszewski, but then it also has Pickett, Johnson, Taylor, whoever the studs are that you prefer. And then if you decide to use the kicker, maybe you forego one of those studs and you're looking at like an Ashton Doolin or somebody else. And the lineup just doesn't look as pretty on paper. So I think there's a chance Matthew Wright and Chase McLaughlin and the defenses go a little underowned tonight. And I kind of also glossed over defense. Pittsburgh's defense with TJ Watt back and this Indianapolis offensive line, you could very well see a high scoring performance from this defense. A lot of sacks. Matt Ryan's been taking a ton of them. He's been turnover prone. We've got an excellent pass rush.
That's a good point. Their offensive line definitely looks better since Saturday took over. You can attribute it to whatever you want. Their offensive line looks better, but with this Pittsburgh defense getting healthier, they could wreak havoc here. There's no doubt about that. I think this game comes down to the Steelers pass rush for sure. And they are pretty healthy for the most part. Let's talk about the Colts. Jackie Treehorn said Gunnar Olszewski's girlfriend is a 10. Look it up. I did. No lies detected, sir.
I'm going to check it out.
Oh my God. What's that?
I'm going to check it out.
Oh yeah. I mean, you will not disagree with this one. I would say, I don't think you can ever say a 10 because it's like Olympic scoring, because then you can't go higher. And yeah, but yeah, pretty damn close. Tell you that much.
I live in Wisconsin, buddy. Our scales are a little different. So we can go over 10. A Wisconsin 10 is different.
Yeah. What is it? Like a 7 on a normal scale?
You've been to Wisconsin. You've been to the bars?
Yes, I was in Green Bay.
Yeah. How is the talent up there?
Nothing stood out to me. Let me put it to you that way. You know where I was really surprised? The talent in Chicago. Wow.
Oh, it's a massive city.
Shocking. Blown away. But did you look that up?
Yeah, she's a cute girl.
What would she be in Wisconsin?
12.
Let's talk. Yeah, she breaks the scales in Wisconsin.
And look, Steven, judge not lest ye be judged. I'm not saying I'm a 10, buddy.
Yeah, listen.
Far from it.
You're handsome. You're a handsome fella, Matt. You're too humble. But yeah, she breaks the scales in Wisconsin, and not the type of scales that most Wisconsin girls are breaking. By the way, I know nothing about Wisconsin girls, so I'm just joking. I'm not saying they're all, hogs out there. I'm 100% kidding. 100% joking. Settle down. It was just, I served it up to myself on a platter, and I had to, knock that one out. All right. Hey, Jordan Klein, how you doing? Let's talk about the Colts. Before we do though, shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. I mean, how's that for a segue? If you guys have not checked out Prize Picks yet, you have a million different reasons to do so. And by a million, I mean clearly a handful. Number one, you get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. All of our tools, like I was just talking about for that weekly, you get a free month when you sign up with Prize Picks using the link in the description or the one that Mike can throw in the chat right now. All right. That is insane. That's $120 value. Also, over at Prize Picks, when you sign up using the link, deposit for the first time, get up to $100 first match deposit bonus. Basically saying you're insane if you don't sign up over here. Plus, the format's awesome, especially if you guys are in non-legal betting states. What a way to scratch that itch. All you're doing is building lineups, right? You're just building lineups with props. No juice on the over or the under, nothing. Just to betting or to taking the over the under, you're putting up to 5 of them in one lineup. You hit all 5, you 10x your entry. If you hit 4 of 5, unlike a traditional book or parlay, you're still 2xing. You're still making, you're still doubling up if you hit 4 of 5, and you even make money back on 3 of them. You can mix as many sports as you want, and no matter how many sports you're competent at, mix them all into one. Check it out, man. Use the link in the description or in chat. Get up to $100 first match deposit bonus, and you get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. All sports, all tools. We got you, baby. Prize Picks, sponsor of the Strategy Show. All right, Matt. Let's talk about Indianapolis. First up, Jonathan Taylor, highest priced player on the slate. Last week was weird. He starts off with 7 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown against the Eagles. And then they held him to like 35 yards on 15 carries over the remaining 3+ quarters of that game. So clearly an up and down performance, but he was excellent in week 10 against the Raiders. What do you make of him today? Highest priced player on this showdown.
Yeah, he's an awesome player. And I think he's going to continue to get sort of Derrick Henry-esque treatment at this point because they don't have as much ability to throw as maybe we thought heading into the year. Matt Ryan hasn't looked great, and we'll talk about him in a second. So teams can stack the box against Jonathan Taylor. And we've seen this with Derrick Henry, where a lot of times it's like, okay, Derrick Henry is 8 carries, 24 yards, really inefficient. And then boom, he wears you down and he breaks out that long run. And that's what I think we could be seeing with Jonathan Taylor, because efficient player historically, the workload is not a concern, especially with Nyheim Hines gone. They're not using many other backs. You'll see the occasional like Deion Jackson here, but he's just not the caliber player that Nyheim Hines was. So the workload honestly is even more condensed here and more secure. To me, it's a matter of where do we want to play Jonathan Taylor? Do you want to play him in the captain? Do you want to play him in the flex? And my personal preference, I'll use that language, personal preference, is to use him in the flex today, just because he's really the only player on today's slate that has that name value, that pop that you get with some of the stars that are on slates. People don't want to captain Pickett. They don't want to captain Matt Ryan for the most part. I think there's a chance he's pretty owned in the captain spot today, but at the end of the day, I still want to play him. So I think flex is where I'm going to be leaning.
Yeah. How tough is it to get because I ran some lineups earlier, just seeing how much I got. I don't think I got a ton of Jonathan Taylor at captain.
I got him almost entirely flex, but
Yeah.
Again, the captains, if you're running projections, it's like Pat Fryermuth, Najee Harris, Matt Ryan. So I'm trying to think from like a hand builder's perspective. Obviously, there's a balance between people that use these tools and people that build by hand. But wouldn't you think like a person that just watches Monday Night casually and throws in a couple lineups here and there? I mean, I'm inclined to click Jonathan Taylor. I think they might be too.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since you look at his recent game logs and people are going to be like, okay, he's turning things around. Look, his volume is going to be insane. I think we both agree with that. And unless this game goes sideways, Jonathan Taylor is going to get a ton of work. One thing that was odd. So he had 4 targets last game, but then you had Deion Jackson return, and I'm pretty sure, Deion Jackson was targeted 4 times in that game as well. Did absolutely nothing with those opportunities, but he came back after that absence in week 10. And while he only had 1 attempt on the ground, he definitely was used in the receiving game. I don't think you need to get too cute here. You actually, I would go as far to say that Deion Jackson is unplayable. Now, the reason the other week I didn't hate somebody like what's his name, like Dontrell Hilliard, was because he was pretty cheap. He was 4K, but Deion Jackson, and that game had no good pass catching options on the Tennessee, or what was that? Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee, Green Bay had some, but there was nothing that really stood out. This one, Deion Jackson's 5K. I mean, that's expensive for a guy that you're hoping gets a couple targets on a team that probably won't take a ton of trips to the end zone.
Right. And I don't even think he has the same Nyheim Hines workload or close to it.
No chance.
Just going to be your change of pace back, who probably requires an injury to pay off this tag. And again, sometimes we're a little more interested in these guys based on the dynamics of the slate. But today, having Olszewski and Sims and some of the cheap guys, there's just not a lot of reason to play him. So he fully enters the conversation as your pay up to be contrarian if you're playing something in the size of like the Millie Maker or whatever. I think they're giving away 500K tonight in the 500K to first contest. Not a lot of interest there.
Yeah, agreed. It's Jonathan Taylor in that backfield, and that about sums it up. Interesting slate when you think about it, because a lot of times we have to consider the backup running backs. I don't really think for either side of this there's anything to get excited about, or even roster for that matter. So it makes a difference. The pass catchers here. So how about Pittman? It hasn't been having these blow up games, but since Matt Ryan returned, Pittman's still, let's not get cute. This isn't to say we shouldn't be looking elsewhere, but Pittman still leads the team with a 28% target share in the 2 weeks since Matt Ryan returned. Paris Campbell's at 26% though. This went from a guy who was completely irrelevant to start the season. I mean, irrelevant to start the season. That is the only way to put it. He has since been actually pretty effective. Not a guy on a main slate that you're paying, a decent penny, a pretty penny for. But you look at his last, however many, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? Last 6 weeks for Paris Campbell have been pretty good. He's got 3 touchdowns as well and a lot of targets.
Yeah, he's been a lot better through, it was like the first 3-4 weeks of the year. He was a bottom 3 receiver in terms of yards per route run. So he's turned a corner, and that's positive for his performance. I think these guys come in largely unowned. They're priced at a point where I think optimals are going to give you QBs and running backs like Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris instead of them. The only guy I really got a lot of on Indianapolis was Michael Pittman. So I think this gives us an opportunity for leverage. And with Pittman specifically, he's up in that price range where you also have some of the expensive guys. So if you captain him, I think it's going to be quite contrarian today for the most part. And then if you want to get a little different in the flex, it appears that Alec Pierce is going to be unowned. And he, I think, could be a buy low off of your Paris Campbell's. Paris Campbell has been excellent, but ultimately, I'm not sure he's like locked into the role, if you know what I mean. I think the target share is probably going to be pretty spread, ebb and flow between the ancillary receivers. And Paris Campbell's played well lately, but Pierce had some big games earlier this year when Paris struggled. I think they're pretty clearly locked in as the top 3 options, but I think a little less separates them maybe than their salaries indicate. And on the back end, our tools have Pierce as a slightly better value than Paris Campbell here as well.
Agreed. Let's see here. So over the first 5 weeks of the season, Paris Campbell was. I'm curious.
He was bad.
0.6 yards per route run.
That's atrocious.
Oh my God. The only players worse than him were AJ
Green.
What's that?
I was guessing. I was going to say AJ Green.
Is that what you said? You guessed that? All right. Give me another one. When I say it, you're going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. If you don't guess it.
I don't have a good guess.
Okay. Only receivers. Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Yep. Allen Robinson, DeMarcus Robinson, Paris Campbell. So he was 4th worst in the league. Dismal.
Much better now, though.
What's that?
Much better now, though.
Let's see where he is since week 6. I would imagine it's not, it's not insane, but it's probably since week 6 is where he really started to turn it on. If you're looking at all the receivers on this slate, where does Paris Campbell at his price point, where does he kind of rank for you?
At his price point?
Yeah, I'm saying factoring in no, not at that price range, but given his price point, where does he rank for you?
I think he's a little lower, and it's because he's more expensive than Alec Pierce, and their volume, I think, is going to just ebb and flow largely throughout this season. Like, he's very close to George Pickens, who projects better than him. He's more expensive than Pat Freiermuth, who projects like a full 2 points higher than him just in terms of raw projections. But there's a chance he also comes in under-owned. So I'm trying to balance this. He has a projection that's a little lower than Freiermuth and some of these other players, but he also has a good recent performance. Do you think people are still going to click his name? I think they might.
I think they will. Yeah, I do. I think you will see some of that for sure. Recency bias is a thing, but he has been involved. That's why Campbell still, I agree that it's not locked in, but it's a far cry from where he was earlier in the season. That's all. And how about this though? This did surprise me. The Colts have allowed the fewest receiving yards to wide receivers. The fewest receiving yards the Colts have to wide receivers this season. The second fewest touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers have allowed the second most receiving touchdowns to wide receivers and the 5th most receiving yards. So, of course, put it in context. You have to look at matchups and everything, but there are definitely some, while the Steelers defense is getting healthy, they do give up some big plays. There's no doubt about that. There's still some opportunities here. And while Matt Ryan is not the Matt Ryan of old, he is still unquestionably better than Sam Ehlinger. So, I don't mind taking some shots on these wide receivers here. We have Alec Pierce with one of the highest leverage scores on the slate. He's cheap. He's not exciting, but you have to consider these guys. The only one that I know we have a positive leverage score on him because he's getting virtually no ownership. Ashton Doolin is cheap, but he hasn't seen a single target over the last 2 games. He's been running just, as you like to say, running. What do you say? Getting getting a good cardio workout in.
He's wind sprinting.
Yeah, I know. But you said something on Live Before Lock the other day. I was watching after my show. You're like, yeah, he's just getting some great cardio workouts in on wind sprinting.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's ugly. It's ugly. So Pierce. And then what about the fact that at the tight end position, it's never fun targeting this tight end position. You can hit on however much you want. I don't know if you want to talk about like Mike Strahm, but Mo Alley Cox, and then Kylan Granson's doubtful, and Jelani Woods is off the injury report. He missed 2 games. He should be back. Any interest in any of these guys? And keep in mind, Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods are not minimum salary like Steven Sims and Gunnar Olszewski.
Right. That's the biggest thing with them. I think they also enter that pay up to be contrarian spot. And it's even tougher with like a Mo Alley Cox because he's not very far from the kickers. And the kickers and the defenses project significantly better than him. So these are just pure leverage guys. But I do think Jelani Woods comes in and plays sort of what Kylan Granson was doing, not a full-time player, mostly route running. Jelani Woods is a massive human being, so he can block a little bit too. But I think Jelani is probably the guy who would play a little bit more, and it's just price. 1.4K is a lot different than 3.6 on this slate, with Cox being so close to the kickers and the defenses. I think I'll end up with more Jelani, but I don't see myself playing a lot of these guys, to be honest.
How would you rank pass catchers for the Colts today?
I think number one is still Pittman, albeit very slight, just because like it's pretty condensed here, especially since Matt Ryan returned. Pittman, I mean, he's going to be the target leader on this team, but I don't think it's this 30% target share moving forward or anything like that. And then number two, I'm going to put Pierce. It's going to be very close. The target shares between Pierce and Campbell, I think, will be pretty similar the rest of the way. And then we have an ownership gap and a pricing gap between them. And I think there's a chance that Paris could come in a little more than we think, just based off recent performance. Third would be Paris. I'm still going to play him, just probably a little less in the field.
6 likes till we get to 100. Almost there. We're going to build a lineup as well. Love building some lineups here to close out the show. We'll do that in just a second. Is there anybody else we haven't touched on for the Colts?
I don't think so. We've hit on every major skill position player that's received some snaps recently. The only two other names who are going to be like single digit snap guys, Zach Moss, Millie Maker play, Nikola Kalinic, who I don't even know this guy, which is shocking.
I didn't either. I thought I was going to ask you about him because
I don't even know him. He
sounds like an Eastern European NBA player. Like I was looking at the roster and I go, maybe he's supposed to be on the Pacers and they just messed this up and put him on the Colts. That sounds like a basketball player name for sure.
He's from Canada. He went to college in Canada. So he didn't even play college football. So like, I don't know anything about this guy.
I think we could probably, not going to say it. I was going to say we could probably ignore him. I mean, we should really, but
he ran one route.
He ran one route.
Yeah. He blocked 16 times.
Yeah. There's nothing there.
Yeah. I miss Jack Doyle, man.
Well, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to build a lineup, but I've told you a bunch of ways to get, 90% discounted subscriptions or free money or free months. If you want one more way to get, just run the gauntlet here. If you want to get legitimate free money, you want to get $200 for free. If BetMGM is available to you right now, you've got the World Cup going on. And before you're like, I don't like soccer, doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why, because you're getting $200 regardless of whether you know a damn thing about it or you watch. All you have to do is use the link in the description when you sign up at BetMGM or in the chat. Deposit $10 or more if you want. Only has to be $10 and bet any pre-match money line, any pre-game match, whatever money line. If that wins, you get paid out and you get the free $200. If that loses, you get the $200. It is why they call it a no-brainer. It's a legitimate no-brainer. And Matt, I'm sure you don't pay much attention to World Cup. Am I right?
I do not, but occasionally I'll watch a USA game and I will take my free money no matter what sport is being played.
Damn right. Or you look at all of the upsets that we've had this World Cup already. You're talking like plus 2,000, right? 20-1 upsets. If you put $10 on that and you won, that's $200 plus another $200 that you got for depositing $10 when you signed up. It's insane. And if you lost that, there's no risk because you're still getting the 200. Worst case scenario, ready? Best case scenario. Here's the best case scenario. Deposit $10. You put it on a big dog. They win. You get paid out and you get your $200 from BetMGM. And then you run it up into 4 or 5 figure bankroll. Worst case scenario, you lose your bet. You get your 200. You lose all that 200, go on a terrible run, and you're still only down $10. There's your downside. That's your floor. Check it out. Get in the action, baby. BetMGM, if it's available to you, take advantage of it. Once the World Cup's over, this promo disappears. Link's in the description. Link is in chat. Let's build a lineup and turn this one over to the NBA strategy show after we're done here. You got Josh Engelman and Adam Scher coming up next. Matt, let's do the $50 single entry, see what we can work with here.
All right. You want to kick it off?
Yeah, why not? I'm going to go with, let me see. Let me just see captain ownership.
It's a tough one.
We both like Freiermuth. He has positive leverage, but he has the highest positive leverage score on our tool, on our top plays tool. I'm going Pat Freiermuth, baby. Let's go.
Good. I was debating Freiermuth or Najee's. Thank you for that.
I was too. Najee was my other option as well.
Love those two. I'm just going to throw Jonathan Taylor in. Not a question of whether I want to play him or not. It's where, and we went Freiermuth captain, so I want Taylor in my flex.
I'm wondering what line. I'm not saying we have to do this, but I am curious to see how nice lineups look like, say Millie Maker without the quarterbacks. If you were going like a Najee and Taylor with Freiermuth at captain, and then maybe a Michael Pittman or something and a kicker and a defense. I don't think that's insane. I really don't think it's insane to think that both quarterbacks could finish with a 14 or a 15 spot or something and not be in the optimal.
I agree with that. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, especially so far, Pickett's been throwing shallow. You could just get raw PPR volume that ends up outscoring Pickett overall.
Like Freiermuth could have the only receiving touchdown. Najee could have a touchdown, and then you don't have Pickett in the optimal. I do want to go with Najee here and see what we can do. We're still working with a nice amount of salary, 6,500 remaining.
Yeah, on this slate, you can virtually play whoever you want. I'll open it up for us a little bit. Instead of playing Olszewski, I think Sims is going to be a little less owned. It's going to be close, but I'll try to shave off a little bit of ownership here and go Sims.
Okay. And for what it's worth, I don't think you have to go with a minimum salary guy in all of your lineups. Like you could still easily make good lineups without someone like that. But since you're going Sims, then I'm going to go and take advantage of it with Michael Pittman.
Love that. So that still gives us 9,200 left, unbelievably.
So the only thing we can't do is go to a quarterback. So if you'd like, I can go down from Michael Pittman to somebody else and we can go to a quarterback. I don't think that's a terrible idea, or we could see what this looks like without one.
Yeah, I'm good without one. I think it's completely fine.
So do I.
Highest price players, Deontay Johnson. I don't think this lineup would be too duped, but just in case it is, I'll throw Pickens in as the last guy just because we have some couple chalky pieces here, and hopefully that's enough to differentiate us. So just Pickens over Johnson for the leverage.
All right. Only issue there is we have 3 pass catchers from the Steelers without a quarterback, but no one's going to dupe that. That would be insane. Also, I don't think it's insane either if you're going non-quarterback lineups to just go with one of these defenses, where they have a interception return for a touchdown or something, where then the teams are more complacent to run the football. Of course, the other side will be throwing, but yeah, there's a lot you can do with this. There's a lot of ways you can make some pretty good lineups. I'm excited for this slate. For sure.
Me too. It's wide open.
Wide open. And I appreciate you guys watching. As always, this has once again been a fun show. And over 100 likes, almost 400 people with us. You can find Matt at Matt_Gajewski on Twitter, me at Laffy_D. For those of you guys that jumped in late, remember, last day for our thanks promo. Instead of using the thanks promo code, just use the link in the description or chat. Prize Picks, $100 first match deposit bonus, and a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. BetMGM, $200 for free when you deposit and put $10 on any match pregame. Like I said, take advantage of that, but bet a dog. Put yourself in a nice spot. As always, appreciate you guys. Anything before we head out, Matt?
Thank you guys for watching bright and early on a Monday morning, listening to my nonsense at times. So appreciate you guys being here, but great game. Hope you enjoyed the show, and let's make some money tonight.
Shout out to Mike for producing this one. We'll see you back here soon. Peace.